whichever you like, whichever light-hitting shortstop you want. It's 2. That's the magic number. That's how close the Royals are to a return to October baseball. Thanks to a welcome return to form just in time for the offense. A 7-4 victory this afternoon over the Washington Nationals has that magic number down to 2. And what that means, any combination of Royals wins and wins-losses equaling 2 means the Royals are going to the postseason. Everyone else is out. The Mariners are out. The Tigers and Royals are still tied. So technically right now, the Royals still have a tie.
Yeah, they do.
It's just the Twins. There's no one else for the East. It's just them. They play later tonight against the Miami Marlins. We'll discuss that. They've got 1 against the Marlins, 3 I believe against Baltimore, or is the Yankees?
I think it's Baltimore. You know, you really blew off some Royals legends who have worn number 2, especially in recent years. Chris Owings, Michael A. Taylor, Humberto Arteaga, Joey Gathright. I think it was Arteaga. Yeah. Tony Graffinino. Brent Maine. Yeah.
Rocky great Brent Maine. Christopher throws out Onyx Concepcion in the YouTube live chat. Love that. That's in between. That's the light hitting shortstop in between Freddie Patek and Alcides Escobar. So we got the magic number down to 2, and that is where we begin on a jam-packed day here on 580 Sports Talk on 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our video stream where we hope we have restored audio to the proceedings, and we hope you can hear us if you're watching us on the video stream.
It was actually just you.
It was just me?
You were the only one.
They couldn't hear me?
Yeah.
But people want to hear me.
Well, the control board disagrees.
I'm Dan Lucero. That's Brendan Dworzinski. The video stream is available on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on our Facebook page, WIBW News. Lots of ways to watch 580 Sports Talk. Listen to 580 Sports Talk. However you're doing it on this day, we appreciate you tuning in to the show. We've got a nod from the Top Seed Metals Flight text line for Coco Crisp, another Royals number 2 of note. Got any others? Recent vintage?
Yes, I can offer you Bob Melvin,
the current manager of the Padres.
1 year of Kevin Seitzer.
Interesting.
1988.
I think that must have been his rookie year.
I think you are correct about that. Steve Jeltz.
Steve Jeltz, KU guy.
Yeah.
The Jayhawk.
Nelson Liriano.
Another former Rocky.
Let's see. There only have been 24 Royals to ever wear the number 2. Which is actually one of the more common numbers in Royals history.
So when the magic number went down to 3 last night, because I've been doing this on Twitter, I've been doing the Royals magic number is, and then putting a player who famously wore that number. If you follow me on Twitter at Dan Lucero Show, you've seen that. So last night when they finished off their 3-0 win over the Nationals and got the magic number down to 3, they haven't given out the number 3 in 13 years. That's a pretty common number, and no Royal has worn it since Brian Pena in 2011. Yeah. So, it's not like they're holding it for, what do you call it, sentimental purposes. They just haven't given out the number 3.
You don't think they want to hold it for Harmon Killebrew?
Harmon Killebrew, a Hall of Famer.
The first ever number 3 in Royals history. He batted 199.
Yeah, he was pretty cooked by the time he came around to KC.
Do you know what the most worn Royals number is?
I'm going to guess it is 1.
It is not 1. Not even close, in fact.
Oh, how about that?
It's 31.
Huh.
And brother, that is a cursed number. These dudes stink. Jason Rakers.
I got nothing for you there.
Will Smith.
Well, I got a lot for you there.
Ian Kennedy might be the best.
Yeah, he can. He had a couple good years.
Byron Geddes.
Nothing for you.
Brandon Duckworth.
Nothing for you. I mean, I've heard that name. I just don't have any Royals memories of Brandon Duckworth.
Shane Mack.
I mentioned Shane Mack on my Immaculate Grid the other day. He was traded from the A's to the Royals for Mike McFarland.
So between the years 1996 and 2004, what is that? 9 years, 11 different players wore that number.
That must have just been the traveling jersey. Like if you got called up, you got 31. They just carried 31 with them, like the blood jersey in basketball. That must have been the traveling jersey for the Royals. Right now, the number that matters again is 2. That is the magic number. The Royals are winners 7-4. We'll break it all down and talk about how the bullpen, just in time, has gone from year-long Achilles heel to one of the best in baseball in the month of September. Yeah, I couldn't believe it either. But they're missing bats better than any bullpen in baseball. They are. This Royals bullpen, it's a real strength, and the way Matt Quatraro used it allowed it to be a strength in this series. We're going to give Matt Quatraro some love. You guys know I'm hard on him. You guys know I second-guess him a lot.
I should add, by the way,
yes,
real quick, this is pointed out by Greg on the 580 Sports Talk YouTube channel. You know who did also wear number 3?
Ned Yost.
Ned Yost did. In honor of the Intimidator.
Yeah, him and Dale Earnhart were friendly.
Yeah, raise hell, praise Dale.
So, Ned Yost, that would be a big reason why no player wore it for that extended period of time. But maybe they're not going to retire it for him, are they?
I wouldn't, but
no, I don't think they're going to retire it for Ned Yost. But hey, the only other Royals manager to win a World Series, they retired his number. Of course, there were tragic and extenuating circumstances with Dick Hauser, but maybe that's why it hasn't gotten handed out since Ned left.
It could be. I mean, Ned also finished below 500 in his career, so
that's true. But hey, those flags,
they fly forever.
They fly forever. So lots of Royals baseball to get to on today's program. We are also going to unveil a new game, a new exciting game to play as we look at some teams off to surprising starts, both good and bad, across the National Football League. Are they to be trusted or are they busted? It's all part of our new game, Trusted or Busted.
Do we want music for that?
I do want music for that if you can find some for us. Anyway, we're going to do that in the 4 o'clock hour. We got lots of great guests today on the show. Bottom of this hour, Rick Peterson, TopSports.News for our Lewis Toyota Local Sports Spotlight. Bottom of the 4 o'clock hour, Paul Myerberg of USA Today for our Big 12 football breakdown. And at the 5:25 or so time slot, we'll be joined by the voice of the Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, for our weekly conversation with Mitch and get his thoughts on Chiefs Chargers coming up this Saturday. That's all to come, plus headlines. What is wrong with you? Either or, over under, everything else you've come to know and love about a Thursday edition of the program here on 580 Sports Talk. You can interact with the program. We appreciate those of you already doing so in the YouTube live chat today. If you're watching the show on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, there's a live chat feature. You can interact with us and with other listeners to the show. You can also send us comments if you're watching on Facebook, WIBW News, and hit us up on the Top City Metal Supply text line. That's 785-272-9429, the Top City Metal Supply text line. And to address a note of concern from the Top City Metal Supply text line, yesterday we had intended to give out 2 pairs of tickets to see K-State and Oklahoma State on Saturday. Time got tight in the second hour. We only had 2 hours and not 3. And time got tight, and we neglected to give out the second pair of tickets. And that is my bad. I'll own that. I'll wear that. But I still have the pair of tickets. We're still going to give it out. So be listening.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you have them, so you're going to go.
Yeah, no, I'm hoarding them for myself. I made a decision in the moment. No, I have a pass to get in. I have a media pass that gives me food, and it's going to be like 61 degrees in the Dev Nelson press box, just like it always is. And I'll look forward to being there on Saturday. But somebody else is going to get to go with a friend or their spouse or a child on Saturday. We are going to give away that second pair of tickets. That's why it was good that I did it yesterday, because if I had forgotten on Friday, I would have had no recourse. And I was afraid that would happen because I can be a little forgetful. Anyhow, I do have one more pair of tickets for that game. K-State, Oklahoma State, Saturday, Bill Snyder Family Stadium, 11 a.m. Be listening for your cue to call. Royals sweep 7-4, just like we always thought. Adam Frazier, a guy that we have had nothing but good things to say about on this program, especially our summer intern, Trenton Craxner. Never had a bad word to say about the guy. If you remember otherwise, that's just faulty memory on your part. Adam Frazier, the biggest hit of the season for the Royals, a 2-run single into left field. I don't know if you were watching at the time, Brendan, but for those who were not watching, it was kind of humorous because Frazier's behind in the count 0-2 with runners at second and third, and he gets a 98-mile-an-hour fastball from Kyle Finnegan right down Broadway, and he gets the fat part of the bat to it. He flares it into left field, but off the bat, Frazier couldn't find it. He thought he'd popped it up. He just assumed, fairly, that a guy with no thump and hadn't had a big hit in a month on a team that has not gotten many big hits in the last month, just assumed he'd hit a lazy pop-up on the infield. So he looks up, he can't find it, and then he sprints out of the batter's box and down to first base, and the 2 runs come around to score. Frazier himself would come in and score later on in the inning, a 3-run ninth, and Lucas Erceg working for the 3rd consecutive day, working a 1-2-3 ninth inning. The Royals bullpen continues to build on a shutout streak. The Royals as a team had set a record, a franchise record, with 25 consecutive scoreless innings after shutting out the Nationals last night 3-0. Of course, that streak ended in the 1st inning tonight, thanks to some misadventures from Michael Garcia in the field. But the bullpen, once again, after last night, the bullpen had to pick up, doing the math in my head here, because Michael Lorenzen got 7 outs. So the bullpen had to pick up 20 outs last night to preserve that shutout. And they had to get 12 after Michael Wacha was 5 and fly today and gave up the 3-run home run that turned a comfortable early 4-1 Royals lead into a 4-4 tie. But the bullpen got it done. And credit where it is due for Matt Cottrero, because I thought he was outstanding managing the bullpen. I thought he leaned on the weakness of this Washington team, which is hitting left-handed pitchers, and he was willing to deploy Daniel Lynch in long relief yesterday. The easy thing to do would have been Alec Marsh, right? Because it was his day to start, and they didn't expect Lorenzen to maybe leave that early in the game. But no, he went to the lefty, Lynch, because Washington struggles against left-handed pitching. Lynch was outstanding. Zerpa threw a clean inning late. Royals get the shutout. Tonight, it was another outing for Zerpa, who was really good in this series. 3 scoreless innings in the series, and he got some big outs in the middle stages of the game. And John Schreiber got big outs, and Chris Bubich worked a scoreless 8th, setting the table for the heroics of Frazier and company in the top of the ninth. And it goes to the work of this bullpen. I couldn't believe the number when I saw it on the broadcast last night on Bally Sports Kansas City. The Royals, as a group, in the month of September, they have the best relief strikeout rate in the American League. A group that for all season we talked about, these guys can't miss bats.
That's crazy.
But think about the guys who couldn't miss bats. Think about all of the guys that we were talking about said, well, this guy can't miss a bat. Will Smith, Chris Stratton, James MacArthur. What do all 3 of those guys have in common? They're not pitching right now.
They're not active.
They're not part of this.
Yep.
Who is part of this? Lucas Erceg. And Sam Long, who's been a bat misser, and Zerpa, who's had a higher strikeout rate than the average at times this year. This bullpen, when you look at how it is presently constructed relative to what it looked like back in April, right now the bullpen, Zerpa, who did not start the season with the big league club, Sam Long did not start the season with the big league club, Chris Bubich did not start the season with the big league club. He was still recovering from Tommy John. Carlos Hernandez did not start the season with the big league club. Now, we didn't see him in this series. Wouldn't have been a very good matchup for him. Lucas Erceg, obviously acquired at the trade deadline. And Daniel Lynch, who did not start the season even as a reliever, never mind part of the big league club. And all of these guys are doing the business out of the bullpen. and just in time, too. This is when the Royals have needed to lean on that group, and they were terrific in this series. And they're the reason the Royals were able to sweep this series and give themselves some breathing room going into the final weekend.
I mean, it's complimentary baseball like you play complimentary football, right? I mean, you need all hands on deck. You need everything to be firing at the right time in the right way at the biggest moments, and that's what this team has gotten. I mean, it's been mostly good starting pitching. It's been an offense that has needed to be picked up, and, well, the pitching staff, both the relievers and the starters, have been able to do that. It's incredibly impressive. I don't know that I trust that they will continue that. And maybe that is just me being jaded because we saw some very baseball from them for much of the season. So I don't know that I would bank on this team being able to ride a bullpen into the postseason like it's 2015 all over again. But that being said, you get while the getting's good and you're feeling pretty hot about where you are right now. And if you're talking about relief pitching, offense, starting pitching, if you get two of those three things humming all at the same time, you're going to win plenty of games. This series, it was the starting pitching and the bullpen work. Offense, not so much, although they did come alive a little bit today with 7 runs, which is more than they had in their previous, 5 games total? At least 4 games total.
I think that's right.
Completely out of my element. I remember I told Spencer when this happened in the office earlier today after his boy Patrick Corbin gave up a home run to Hunter Renfroe. Said, Spencer, do you know how bad you have to be to give up a home run to the 2024 Kansas City Royals? Hasn't happened in over a week.
Yeah, it hadn't happened. I think Massey was the last one.
I think you're correct. So it had been a while. You love to see one group pick up another. Again, though, if you're talking about what is the formula for winning in October, should this team get there? And I think many of us are back to feeling like, yes, they are going to get there. I would rather see great starting pitching and a good offense as opposed to having to rely on this bullpen that has been infamously unreliable so far. But I'm glad that we're getting a positive swing of the pendulum right now. I'm not going to complain about that.
Yeah, you look at the raw numbers in the month of September and October. The graphic last night they showed on TV not only revealed that it's the best strikeout rate among bullpens in the month of September, it's also the 3rd best walk rate. Bigger picture, in the second half of the season, the difference between the strikeout numbers and the strikeout to walk numbers are pretty stark. Bullpen went in the first half prior to the All-Star break, less than 7.5 strikeouts per 9 and a strikeout to walk ratio just under 2 to now 8.8 strikeouts per 9 and a strikeout to walk ratio of exactly 3. So this remade bullpen down the stretch and Quatrero's increased use of guys like Daniel Lynch and Chris Bubich, and obviously the work that Urseg has done, one of the best acquisitions for any team. I would almost say the most important trade deadline acquisition for any contender. Like, you could argue me off of that, maybe. Like, you say Kikuchi's been really good in Houston, but I don't know that anybody has been more important to their team. I'm stripping the statistics out of it here. I don't know anybody's been more important to their team as a trade deadline addition than Lucas Urseg has been to these Royals.
No, I mean, it's a great argument. He's certainly at the top of the list. Yankees were probably going to win their division anyway. Chisholm was a good ad. He was especially hot right away.
Yeah, he got hurt, though.
Yeah, he did get hurt. Geez. Yeah, I mean, it wasn't the most explosive trade deadline.
Right. We talked about that when it happened.
Yeah, I mean, like, some of the biggest names that moved, Randy Arozarena went to the Mariners, but the Mariners have cratered. The Cubs got Isaac Paredes from the Rays, and nothing changed. I mean, he was better than Christopher Morel, but the Cubs were the same team they were before and after. The Rays adding Morel, they didn't change at all offensively. The Orioles made multiple moves, and they've done nothing but barely scrape by. I'm just trying to think of who would even be in the conversation. Like, Eric Fetty has been okay, but the Cardinals aren't going to make the postseason.
Right, they're not going to playoffs.
Like, I think without question it was Lucas Urseg, which, funny enough, I'm looking at the list right now from MLB.com. They put out, Mike Petriello put out a post the day of the trade deadline. The 12 most impactful deals of the 2024 trade deadline. He listed 12 of them. Take a guess where Lucas Urseg to the Royals showed up.
Out of 12?
Out of 12.
Bottom half?
Incorrect. Trick question. He did not include it.
Wow.
And I got to be honest, man, like and Mike Petriello is great, but with the benefit of hindsight, bro, you could not have been more wrong. Like, is Kopech still pitching well?
Yeah, Kopech's been really good out of the Dodger bullpen.
So, yeah, I mean, that's probably your next best two bullpen arms.
Yes, he's been really good, but I don't believe that he has reshaped the Dodger bullpen in a way that Lucas Erceg has reshaped the Royals bullpen, because that's what the Royals bullpen was missing, right? They were missing the lodestar. Like, they were missing the guy that everything revolves around, that if we get it to this guy, we know we're getting a zero.
Yeah.
They did not have that guy for 4 months. And Erceg has been that guy since he arrived.
I mean, you're talking about a lower baseline for the Royals that you had for the Dodgers. Like, the Dodgers needed pitching help, obviously, but that's just a more talented 26-man roster in general. The Royals...
Although I have no idea who's going to start a playoff series for them. They are out of starters. Like, washed Walker Buehler, Clayton Kershaw with, like, no discs in his back. And I think their game 3 starter might be Sandy Koufax. Like, right now, Sandy Koufax. Like, they are completely out of guys.
I mean, I'd rather have him than Patrick Corbin. Walker Buehler, you mentioned him. Man, remember when he was the next big thing?
Yeah, that was 2 Tommy John surgeries ago.
Yeah, 5.63 ERA this year. He's 1-6 in 15 starts.
But no, trust me, I remember he was the starting pitcher in the tiebreaker National League West game in 2018. Another reminder of how long ago that was. Long ago, my favorite team was to watch. Fun to watch. The Royals, though, fun to watch this week. They take care of business. I want to talk a little bit more about how Matt Quatraro handled this series, because I think he deserves some credit. And I've been slow to give it to him, and I've been quick to criticize him at times, but I want to tip my cap to Q for the way he managed this series. We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll look ahead to some other scoreboard watching and talk about what this all means. Again, the magic number is 2. Any number of Royals wins and or Twins losses that add to 2, and the Royals are going to the playoffs. Plus, Rick Peterson joins us bottom of this hour for a Lewis Toyota Local Sports Spotlight. Paul Myerberg and Mitch Holthus still to come on the show today. We're jam-packed. We're glad you're with us. This is 580 Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. 3:31 on 580 Sports Talk. We're just getting started on this Thursday edition with you until 6 o'clock tonight. It's just the two of us today, Dan Lucero, Brendan Dworzinski. Spencer will be back on tomorrow's show. Still to come today, in just a little bit, Rick Peterson, TopSports.News, is going to join us. We've got Paul Myerberg of USA Today for our Big 12 football breakdown, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. And in the 5 o'clock hour, we'll be joined by Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Chiefs. Royals winners today, 7-4. Just to underscore the point I was making about how this is a different bullpen, these are numbers that were current as of today. 8.1, 8.1, 8.9, 7.8, 11.4, 8.2, 11.3. Do you know the significance of those numbers, Brendan? Would you care to guess?
I would not.
Those are the strikeouts per 9 for every member of the active Royals bullpen.
That's wild.
Zerpa, Schreiber, Long, Lynch, Bubic, Hernandez, Ursic. I guess that skips out on Marsh, 8.8, mostly as a starter.
I'm glad I didn't guess because I didn't want to be wrong.
Yeah, so
if at first you don't succeed, destroy all evidence that you tried.
So everyone at 8 or above, and the only one who isn't is right below 8 and is over 8 as a reliever. That's Daniel Lynch, the fourth. Here's another group of numbers. 7.8, 6.8, 6.3, 7.3. Those are the strikeouts per 9 of the 4 relievers who have had the most appearances that are not currently in the Royals bullpen. That would be James MacArthur, Chris Stratton, Will Smith, and Nick Anderson.
The only thing that's frustrating about that, or the most frustrating thing about that, I should say, there's a lot that's frustrating, is that it took so long to get to that point where the guys who have that many appearances are suddenly not pitching.
Yeah, it took injuries. And in some cases, those really do deserve air quotes to get those guys off the roster. But yeah, that's why if you feel better about the bullpen right now, like that's why. Even Schreiber last night allows the first 2 guys to get on, back-to-back strikeouts right after that. It's not elite bat missing from Schreiber, but he can do it. And that's more than you could say from a lot of guys who are seeing those innings for the better part of this season. So that was great. And then again, like I said, Matt Quatraro deserves, I believe, a lot of credit for the way he managed the bullpen in this series. Randy Gisserli, who has covered the Royals for a very long time, does a podcast about the Royals, tweeted this earlier today or last night. He tweeted, the Royals have rebuilt 75% of their opening day bullpen. Schreiber and Zerpa are the only ones left. And it worked. And it certainly has. And I thought in this series, what was really good from Q was that he really made sure the lefties pitched a lot, and he didn't shy away from using guys. He has not liked to use guys on back-to-back days.
No.
But
most managers don't.
He used Zerpa 3 times because he liked that matchup, the power against those lefties. He used Long back-to-back games, and he used Ursic 3 straight games. And he understood how valuable these games were, that if the Royals won all 3 of these, that it puts less pressure on them going into the weekend, and it puts a heck of a lot of pressure on the Minnesota Twins in their final 4 games, including their finale against Miami in that series later tonight. Unfortunately, the gosh dang Detroit Tigers are still winning baseball games.
Yes, they are.
These dudes rallied from 3-0 down to beat the Rays 4-3 this afternoon. They are 23-8 in their last 31 games. These guys were deader than Elvis. And they're 23-8 in their last 31. And they're all nail biters. Like last night's game was weird for them because it ended 7-1. That was the first time they'd won a game by more than 2 runs since September 10th. And that was against the Rockies. That barely counts. They're barely a major league team. So they keep winning the close ones. They keep pulling them out, and they remain tied with the Royals for that 5th wildcard spot. Again, tonight, game 3 of the series in Minnesota between the Twins and the Marlins. The Twins were down early last night. They were down 3-0 before they got to the plate, but they scored the game's next 8 runs and won it handily over the Fish last night. And they will try to keep their slim hopes alive, but they're just about out of rope at this point. They have to be just about perfect the rest of the way.
So the thing about the Tigers is, yes, they're hot. 23-8 in their last 31. They have to play the second hottest team in baseball the rest of the way. Ladies and gentlemen,
this is true.
The game is in the top of the 9th inning right now on the south side of Chicago, but the Chicago White Sox are about to, for just the second time all season, sweep an opponent. The Los Angeles Angels are about to be swept by the Chicago White Sox at the rate, guaranteed rate field on the south side of Chicago, just off the red line. That will be the 19th different series, the 3-game series the White Sox have played in that has been a sweep this year. They've lost 17 of them.
Wow. I got to give the White Sox credit. Like, they lost game 120, so they've tied the record, but they don't want to break it. They're playing like a team doesn't really want to break it. So, like, they're going to give the Tigers everything they've got this weekend. Now, I don't know what that's going to mean because, I mean, they lost those 120 games for a reason, but the Tigers aren't just going to go in there and play a disinterested baseball team. It's very clear that there's that's a team with a little bit of pride in the final week of the season, a little bit of professional pride being shown by the Pale Hose. So don't put automatically those 3 for the Tigers in the win column just yet.
Did Skubal pitch yesterday?
Skubal pitch not yesterday, day before.
Then he is Monday. Going to pitch in this series.
Yes, he'll go Sunday. And that game might be the difference, to be completely honest with you. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Rick Peterson of TopSports.News will join us next here on 580 Sports Talk. Joining us for a Lewis Toyota local sports spotlight is the great Rick Peterson of TopSports.News, covering all things Shawnee County High School athletics and Washburn University sports as well. At TopSports.News, you can find him on Twitter as well at Peterson_Rick. Pistol, it's week 4 of the high school football season. Can you believe we're already at the halfway point?
Yeah, that's the thing about fall. You got 7 sports, but the fall still seems to really fly by, particularly in the sports other than football. Football can get to a little long if you get to week 11 of the playoffs and things like that. But boy, the fall goes quickly.
A lot of the area teams are on the road this weekend. One team who is not will be featured on our Lewis Toyota 580 Preps Game of the Week tomorrow night over on our sister station, Country 106.9. We'll be at Bowen Glaze Stadium at Washburn Rural. The Junior Blues coming off back-to-back losses to teams out in the Kansas City metro area. And they're going to take on another one from the metro in Blue Valley Northwest, who is a perfect 3-0. And Pistol, Washburn Rural's scheduled very tough, and with a less experienced team than they've had last year, they paid the price a little bit for that. How do you think they can get back on track against the Blue Valley Northwest team that might have the best pair of offensive tackles of any team in the country in Andrew Babalola and the future K-State Wildcat Brock Heath?
Yeah, it's going to be another tough game, for Washburn Rural. And, again, as you mentioned, they lost an awful lot off of last year's team. I believe that Washburn Rural is a good team. They're going to get back on track. But, you go Blue Valley, and then you go Platte County, Missouri, and then you go Blue Valley Northwest, all really good teams. And then they start Centennial League play next week, and probably will be going against a 4-0 Topeka High team.
Yeah, going to be tough sledding for sure for Washburn Rural. That's no pun intended. They are facing the Huskies of Blue Valley Northwest. Again, that is our Lewis Toyota 580 Preps Game of the Week. Tomorrow night, you'll hear it on Country 106.9 with the kickoff at 7 o'clock. Looking around at the rest of local football, the Highland Park Scots are unbeaten and unscored upon, Pistol, and that's what really is remarkable to their 3-0 start, all in Meadowlark Conference play. When we think about what that league has been and what Highland Park has been since joining that league, they've been doing a lot of winning, but it's usually eye-popping final scores. They look like basketball scores sometimes, but Highland Park is playing some real defense this year. I've been in contact with Jermaine Monroe for our coaches club, and he says this is the likes of which this defense they haven't seen at Highland Park for quite some time.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, because usually, I don't care what school you are, usually you'll mess up at some time, or just you'll put in some reserves, or you may have a fluke play or something like that. But to be unscored upon through three games, and I'm betting on them. I'm betting on them making 4 tomorrow night.
Yeah, they take on Harmon tomorrow night at home. Other games in the area of note: Hayden going on the road at Wamego. I love that this is a matchup, Pistol.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great matchup. And when I talked to Bill Arnold, he liked it. He was excited to go play him. I think what he's thinking is it'll tell him a lot more about what they need to do when they get into the playoffs. Now, Wamego's 4A and Hayden's 3A, but it'll show them, if Hayden wants to compete for that 3A title again, what they'll need to do and what they'll need to improve on going forward.
Another great game in Shawnee County this week, a Big East matchup. Silver Lake going out to Potawatomi County to take on St. Mary's. The Eagles are 2-1. The Bears 3-0. They rolled Jeff West last week, while Silver Lake held off Perry LeCompton. How do you make this matchup, Pistol? This is a really interesting one to me, because you've got outstanding quarterback and championship pedigree in recent years there at St. Mary's, but Silver Lake is Silver Lake. They'll always be up for a big game like this.
I think it'll be the kind of game that Silver Lake's had for the most part this season, a close game that'll go down the very end. They beat Rossville in overtime. They did get beat pretty handily by Nemaha Central, but then they had a close game last week, and I look for another close game that goes right down to the wire.
We're talking to Rick Peterson of TopSports.News for the Lewis Toyota Local Sports Spotlight. He joins us every Thursday at this time here on 580 Sports Talk to talk about the area's high school athletics and also some Washburn University sports as well. Taking a look at some other sports, I want to get into girls golf. We haven't gotten to talk about that very much this year. We just had the United Kansas Conference tournament where You had a team championship for Seaman, an individual championship for Topeka West Alex Baxter. What did you come away with as far as your expectations for those teams moving forward as we get closer to postseason girls golf?
Well, and we had back-to-back big meets in golf. We had the city championship on Monday, and then the UKC on Tuesday. And Washburn Rural won the city title, and then led by Natalie Peterson, who won the individual title. Reese Randall was second, and then you go right to UKC, and oh gosh, what was it? Seaman wins her third straight title by, I think, 56 strokes.
Wow.
But Topeka West Alex Baxter got her first individual title after finishing third 2 years ago and second last year. So really exciting for all those involved.
Girls tennis also well underway, and one player having herself an outstanding season is Madeline Dieters from Topeka High, who won the singles championship at the Topeka High Invitational recently.
Yes, yeah, and she'll be our rising star of the week. But there's some really. I'm sitting in the parking lot now at Crossover. Today is a city tournament, and there'll be some really, really fine players there. Ainsley Zualetta Hayden's a two-time state champion. Emma Sweeney of Seaman was a state placer as a freshman. Washburn Rural is loaded with depth, so it's going to be a deep and a really interesting city tournament.
And on the pitch for boys soccer, we're used to Washburn Rural taking a lot of those headlines, and rightfully so. They've got a wonderful program, and they're out to another great start this season with some big Centennial League wins recently. But Topeka High is also playing some good soccer as well. There have been some other good starts in the area.
Topeka High and Topeka West, both. They're both playing very good soccer, and that's good to see. I mean, Washburn Rural, they're going to be there. But it's good to see some of these other teams showing that they may be able to make a fairly good run in the playoffs.
Let's get to some Washburn football with Rick Peterson of TopSports.News. It's the local sports spotlight here on 580 Sports Talk on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. Pistol, this matchup against Missouri Western, that's a team that came up just short against Emporia in overtime last week. Meanwhile, Washburn has played back-to-back top 10 opponents right down to the wire in a pair of home games. How are you feeling about the momentum for this Washburn team? Because it's weird to talk about momentum when you just lost a couple of games and are now 0-3, but it feels like this team is starting to build towards something.
All three of their losses are to teams that are not currently ranked. And that's something. That shows you just how tough a schedule they play. And I tell you what, I honestly believe, and you and I and Coach Schurig have talked about this, it's not that hard to imagine that Washburn's sitting there 2-1 right now, and so they've shown that they have the capability. I tell you what, it's just, I hate to put it this way, but it's just like you just feel like they got to get over the hump. And once they get over the hump, I think they're going to be a load to reckon with. But it's just, for want of a better term, they've just been snake bit a little bit. But I do think they feel really good about their team. I think they think from Coach Schurig on town that all they need is that one break to go their way, and then they could be off and rolling.
How have you felt about the usage of both DJ Bell and Topeka's own Trey Richardson in the last couple of games? Because it's really felt like there has been a concerted effort to get them the ball any way you possibly can, and it's clearly paying dividends.
And why wouldn't you?
Right.
They're both great athletes. They're both fast athletes, and they're part of what I think is a very, very good receiving core. But yeah, no, I'm gonna have to see. I'm guessing Trey may be a little faster than DJ, but I wouldn't mind seeing that foot race. And they're both really good. And the thing about it, if you key on one of them, the other one's gonna hurt you. So I like that group. I like that whole group. I really like Tice Brown and what's Amari's last name?
Sullivan.
I like all those guys. So and I think at some point they're gonna break out, and they're gonna have a really big game and help Washburn get back on track.
Other side of the ball, Missouri Western has one of the best running backs in the MIAA in Brandon Hall. He got a little banged up last week against Emporia, but he's still leading the conference in rushing over 550 yards through 3 games. How big of a day will the front 6, that defensive line, and then that stellar linebacker core, how good are they going to have to be?
They're going to have to be very good because, I think the key for Washburn now, if they're going to have the chance to win, particularly on the road, they can't let the Griffins jump off to a big lead, and they can't let the Griffins control the ball for the whole day. So I think both those, the defense is going to have to be good. And I think the defense for the most part has been good. You look at it, you say, well, wait a minute, they gave up 39 points last week, but that wasn't all on defense. We had everything occur in that game. So I think for the most part, the defense has played pretty well.
Rick Peterson covers it all when it's local sports. You can find it at TopSports.News with Pistol and his staff. Find Rick on Twitter as well at Peterson_Rick. Catch him every Thursday for the Lewis Toyota Local Sports Spotlight here on 580 Sports Talk. Pistol, we'll talk to you next week.
Look forward to it.
That is Rick Peterson. We'll take a break, come back, wrap up this hour. 580 Sports Talk next. We got time for a quick round of either or over under. You got one for us, Brendan?
I've got an either or for you. It involves the coaches for Thursday Night Football tonight. Cowboys versus Giants. Mike McCarthy versus Brian Daboll. Which is more likely to be coaching their current team in 2025?
Ah, wow. That's a good one. I would say Daboll. I think that I don't think McCarthy's got another year in his contract. He's a lame duck, right? He didn't sign an extension.
Ooh,
they barely got extensions done for their players. Why would they have done one for their coach? So, yeah, I feel like McCarthy's a lame duck. Daboll, I wouldn't bet on either of them coaching there next year. I just think Daboll's more likely.
He's also got the more plausible deniability. Like, the Cowboys have the quarterback.
Right.
The Giants don't. And if you saw Hard Knocks this summer, the Giants also know they don't have the quarterback.
Very good point. We're talking NFL. We'll talk to Paul Myerberg for our Big 12 football breakdown. We'll do What Is Wrong With You. Lots more to get to in hour number 2 of 580 Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Let's get it. Hour number 2 of 580 Sports Talk on this Thursday afternoon in the capital city. Thanks for being with us on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on our video stream. We welcome our viewers on Facebook, on our page WIBW News, and on YouTube, where the channel is 580 Sports Talk. Subscribe today. See all of our live content, our pre-recorded content, our YouTube shorts. So much great stuff to be found if you subscribe at 580 Sports Talk on YouTube.
The YouTube short today was about Patrick Mahomes, and don't doubt this guy quite yet, even though he hasn't been great. And I got accused of, or I was told to stop riding Mahomes, bro. That's what I was told today.
I saw it had a lot of comments, and that made me say, uh-oh.
Never
because,
good.
Yeah, I have a rule when it comes to the comments. My rule is don't read the comments. Now, I make exceptions, like our YouTube live chat. I like our YouTube live chat. They're fans of the show. They're nice to each other. It's a fun time in the YouTube live chat during the show. You're encouraged to jump in there. Also, read the text line. Top State Mail Supply text line, 785-272-9429 is that number. I read those comments. But, anytime it's something that, is on the internet, I try not to get too much into read the comments.
Every time I tell my wife I had a tweet that got a lot of attention, she says, "Oh, no."
Yeah, that's exactly
what did you do?
That's exactly how my wife feels. I had one that hit the front page of Baseball Reddit the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Totally inadvertent. I wasn't trying to get any attention. Yep. I thought I'd make 3 Rockies fans laugh and maybe get 5 likes and a retweet.
Sure.
No, 1.3 million people read that tweet. That's when you go, notifications muted for this conversation.
I do not want to see that.
No.
I once said that happened when Jair Alexander got suspended for a game by the Packers last year for goofing around. And a bunch of people said, well, he can get suspended, but Joe Barry can't get fired. And I said, hey, man, look, two totally different things. They are not equated. And someone who I don't really like responded to me, and I said, you know what? I'm not going to deal with this. Mute. I went back and checked about 12 hours later, 500 replies. It had totally blown up. And half of it was, wow, great take, bro. And half of it was, I wish you were dead. Yeah. And I thought, wow, I'm glad this did not ruin my mental health today.
Yeah. No, that's about where I'm at. Anytime I get more than one response to on Twitter, then I mute notifications.
Yeah, this is only going to end badly.
Yeah, if it breaks contain and it gets out to people that I don't know and interact with, then I don't need to see that. I really
people who don't know the humor.
Anyhow, check those out. The YouTube shorts, we're putting one up every day. They're just little bite-sized sports takes, and it's part of the YouTube experience. If you're following our channel, subscribe today. 580 Sports Talk. Still to come this hour of the show, we've got Paul Myerberg set to join us from USA Today for our Big 12 football breakdown. Get his thoughts on what happened to KU and K-State last week and whether they are primed for rebounds this week, as well as some other thoughts on the state of the Big 12 as we enter week number 2. What is wrong with you round for the month of September? We'll have our semifinals tomorrow. We'll have 4 semifinalists, including today's weekly winner. And then we'll crown a monthly champion on the final day of September, which is next Monday. But we're going to start today. Now, longtime listeners of the program are familiar with an old favorite game that we have played, a very simplistic game called Is It Good? And the crux of Is It Good is we take things that are happening in, a lot of times it's the NFL, but other times it might be college football, it might be baseball, it might be Big 12 basketball, whatever. And we look at things and we ask, is it good? And the answer is either yes or no. It's a yes or no question at the end of the day. I thought it needed a fresh coat of paint. I am always willing to upgrade things and give things new consideration, new ideas. And in that spirit, as we are 3 weeks into the NFL season, we have several teams who are off to very surprising starts, both good and bad. Can these teams be trusted, or are they just busted? And in that spirit, I'd like to welcome you to our brand new game on 580 Sports Talk. That's right, it's Trusted or Busted, NFL Week 3 edition. Yeah, let's dance. Why not? That's for the benefit of our YouTube viewers. Trusted or Busted, NFL edition, week number 3. If you give my computer some audio, please, Brendan. I've got a sound effect for the non-trusted.
Is it the dumpster juice sounder?
It is not the dumpster. I do not have that one queued up, but I've got another one.
The segment might have a new name, but we have the same music.
So, Trusted or Busted, NFL edition. We'll go back and forth between teams off to good starts and teams off to not so good starts. We'll start in the AFC, and we'll start with one of the 3-0 teams in the AFC. No one is surprised that the Chiefs are 3-0. Maybe a little surprising how they've gotten there with less than his best from Patrick Mahomes and only 8 receptions in 3 games from Travis Kelce. But 3-0 for the Chiefs is not a surprise. If anything, it's above expectations, given those first 3 games featured 2 would-be AFC contenders back-to-back at home, and then a tough road trip to Atlanta to play a team a lot of people thought would be the favorite in the NFC South. I'll be honest, I didn't think the Chiefs would start 3-0 with that schedule. I thought 2-1 was a reasonable expectation and was not going to be a season killer, but they're 3-0. But they're the 2-time defending champions. No one's real surprised that they're 3-0. No one's real surprised that the Bills are 3-0 either. So we're setting those 2 teams aside. The Steelers, however, are 3-0, and they are doing so with ostensibly their backup quarterback, Justin Fields, leading the way. The Steelers have road wins at Atlanta and Denver and a home win over the Los Angeles Chargers. They are at the Colts this Sunday. Brendan Dworzinski, are the Steelers trusted or busted?
I will lean with trusted. I mean, I don't trust Fields. He's playing better than he really ever played in Chicago. But, you know, if you go back and you rewatch these first 3 Steelers games, they're not exactly asking him to be great. They're more so asking him to be okay. And we've got a nice running scheme. That's kind of Arthur Smith's thing, their new play caller and offensive coordinator. Let's lean on Najee Harris. Let's lean on Jaylen Warren. Let's lean on your legs, Justin, and try to limit what you have to do through the air. And to this point, it's working, and that offensive line has held up decently well. They've got okay pieces in the passing game. Pat Freiermuth has started the year really well, which, like, if you're an Atlanta fan and you're seeing Pat Freiermuth start well after 3 years of Kyle Pitts wasting away, you've got to think, bro, what the hell? What, are you kidding me, Arthur Smith? I trust this defense, though, more than anything. They are awesome. They are playing incredible football right now. TJ Watt looks as good as ever. Minka Fitzpatrick right now is playing out of his ever-loving mind. He has been fantastic. Alex Highsmith has been good as their number 2 edge on the opposite side from TJ Watt. Their linebackers are playing well. They are, by quite a bit, number 1 in the NFL in defensive EPA per play. They have a lead in that stat bigger than the deficit between numbers 2 and 6 in the NFL. Like, they are way ahead of the pack. Your Seahawks, we'll get to them in a minute. They're number 2 in that category. So I trust this defense. I trust Mike Tomlin. And Arthur Smith has been a good play caller before.
Yes.
Not in Atlanta, but in Tennessee, he was great.
They went to the AFC Championship game with him calling plays for Ryan Tannehill.
That's right.
And what was the similarity there? Simplify it for the quarterback, lean on the running game.
Yep.
And you can do that when you've got a great defense. That's a winning formula. That's been a winning formula in Pittsburgh many times over the years. They go to Indianapolis, and they're home against Dallas, who we'll get to in a bit, at the Raiders, at home back-to-back weeks with the Jets and the Giants before they get to their bye week. Is it crazy they could be 6-2 at the bye week?
Not crazy. No, I mean, when you're that good on one side of the ball, it is certainly possible.
And that's going to put a lot of pressure on what has been a not so impressive AFC North to go and get them if that's where they're at through 8 weeks.
Yeah, you're spot on. By the way, real quick aside, that Colts game, it might be danger zone time for Anthony Richardson in that game because he has not been good, save for like 3 throws in week 1, which, to be fair, were spectacular. That Pittsburgh defense is going to put him in hell. I would be very worried if I was the Colts this weekend.
So we are in a consensus. The Steelers are trusted. Next one on Trusted or Busted. Let's go to another AFC North team, but one on the wrong side of that start to their season. The Cincinnati Bengals are 0-3. They lost at home to New England. They lost close to the Chiefs on the road in week 2. They just lost on Monday Night Football to the Commanders. They got a bounce back opportunity at Carolina on Sunday before they've got a big game looming against the Ravens in week 5, another team we might get to here in a bit. The 0-3 Bengals, there is not much precedent for teams recovering from 0-3 to make the playoffs. Are they busted, or with Joe Burrow and all those offensive weapons, can they still be trusted?
You know how much I love Joe Burrow.
You do.
And
you're
even
a
that
big
is
Joe
not
Burrow
going to
guy.
get me to say trusted. That team is busted.
That team is
Busted.
Nice. Hell yeah. Yeah, they're busted. Who are they going to stop? Joe Burrow was
the Chiefs.
right. Yeah, the one team they are built to beat. And
that's if they turn it over 3 times.
And I give Lou Anarumo credit. I mean, he's built a scheme that is really good at that, but they just don't have guys who can get it done. And they do not get after the quarterback enough. Hendrickson had those 2 really good weeks to start the year. He had one nice play against Washington this past Monday night. But if he's not looking like TJ Watt, what do they have? It's just a bunch of okay across the board. I don't know who they're going to stop. Burrow was awesome on Monday, and it wasn't enough. He was better than almost every quarterback in the league this week, and it wasn't enough against a bad Washington team. So I'm saying busted. I don't think their defense is built for the long haul.
It's not impossible. It may as well be, given how infrequently it happens. But it's not impossible to get to the playoffs from 0-3.
Sure.
And if there was a team to do it, you look at a team with the kind of weapons they have on offense and the quarterback they have and the winning pedigree you have, and you'd say, yeah, it's them. They get better as the season goes on. They've got a schedule coming up. It's a lot of road games, but 3 of their next 4 games, Panthers, Giants, Browns, all on the road, but those are all winnable. And you would think they could get to 3-4, and then they got back-to-back home games against the Eagles and the Raiders. And if they're around the 500 mark by the time they hit the bye week in week 12, which I don't think is out of the question, they should be just fine. But you also have to consider the vibes. And the vibes are terrible. And they've been terrible throughout the season in Cincinnati. They just lost their right tackle, Trent Brown, for the season. That's going to limit what they can do offensively with the deep ball. I don't think they're going to finish like 3-14 or anything, but I do not think this is a playoff team. I do not think they're going to be able to recover. They're just out of pieces. This is what happens when you have to pay everybody. This is what happens when a cheap organization has to pay everybody,
right,
and they cheap out and they ruin the vibes. I'm out on the Bengals. Let's go back to the surprise 3-0 teams and over to the NFC and to my beloved Seattle Seahawks. 3-0 on the campaign, a 2-game lead already in the NFC West. They have wins over the Broncos, the Patriots in overtime, and the Dolphins. They are at a beat-up Detroit team on Monday Night Football this coming week before a home game against the Giants and a Thursday night home game against the 49ers, who we'll get to. Do we trust the Seahawks, or do we think they'll go bust, Brendan? Here's my reservation. I'll start. They're my team. I'll start.
Yeah.
My reservation is that they've beaten Bo Nix, Jacoby Brissett, and Skylar Thompson / Tim Boyle.
Skylar Thompson with about 4 functional ribs.
And so that is my hesitation. Like all of the advanced metrics, even the ones that are designed to like mitigate the impact of the quality of your opponent, say that this has been a really good defense so far.
Yes.
And they're doing this and getting really good pass rush without their best pass rusher, Uchenna Nwosu, who's supposed to be back from injury. Their secondary looks to be legitimately good. I think Mike McDonald is a legitimately good coach. I can't jump in with both feet until I see them beat a real football team, because I do not think the Broncos, Patriots, or the Dolphins without Tua qualify. So trusted with an asterisk, because I do trust the defense and I do trust Geno Smith. Like there are a lot of pieces here and I trust the head coach, but I've also, and maybe this is just my hesitation, my neurotic nature at play here, but I got to see him beat a real team.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the advanced numbers right now. Like they're 13th or 14th in EPA per play offensively overall, at passing EPA, so drop back EPA, which is actually lower than I thought it would be because Geno looks great. I mean, Geno has been slinging it. He's been sensational so far this year. I obviously like the pass catchers. Smith and Jigba has gotten a ton of hype early on this season. DK Metcalf did his thing this past weekend. The schedule has been incredibly light. The defense has been better. Yes, they absolutely get credit for that. I have reservations about the fact that they really don't run the ball well. And the offensive line,
pathetic.
It feels fragile,
to say the least.
That is the generous way I can put it. So I'll play in the spirit of the game. I'll go with busted here, but I think it's more likely they have a great season than Cincinnati at this point.
Yeah, that's fair.
And I like the quarterback. Again, Gino's been great. The offense, the passing game is fine, but you can't run the ball at all. Zach Charbonnet's hilarious. Like, dude is just seeking out contact when he really doesn't need to.
Right.
But he's actually like mobile, unlike DeAndre Swift, who does the same thing and loses 3 yards every carry. And the offensive line, it scares me. That's not a good group. Defensively, I think I'm a little trepidatious just because it's been so bad recently. But Mike McDonald obviously knows what he's doing. So if I have to pick one, I'll go busted, but it's almost more incomplete for me.
Yeah, that's fair.
And even banged up, I think if they can get the Lions, I will be far more in an optimistic direction.
I'm right there with you. Let's go back to the teams that are struggling to start. The 1-2 Dallas Cowboys, who beat the brakes off the Browns on the road in their season opener, but have had anvils dropped on their defense by the Saints and the Ravens in each of the last 2 weeks. They played a night against the Giants. Then they go to Pittsburgh and then have the Lions at home before an early bye. The Cowboys, do you trust them to turn it around, or is their season already on the verge of busting?
A buddy of mine sent me this earlier this week. The Cowboys have allowed more rushing yards through 3 games than any other franchise ever has, and has allowed in any 3-game stretch over the past 60 years.
That's incredible.
60 years of NFL football. Same thing with the Bengals. Who are they going to stop? Like, oh, sweet. Trevon Diggs and Deron Bland. Well, he's banged up, but like they love pick sixes. Great. What happens on inside zone?
It hasn't been very good so far.
Mozzie Smith. I know you knew his game very well in college, being following Michigan, and he got a lot of hype because he was crazy athletic. Mozzie Smith is awful. He is a bad football player, and that's what I was talking about yesterday with MJ Melendez. Like at some point, you have to be a player, not just an athlete. Mozzie Smith is terrible. I mean, he is just a turnstile.
And he's the only big body. Him and Linval Joseph, who's 78 years old. Mm-hmm. Those are the only big bodies they have in the middle. That is a grave concern for me. I will say this. There is too much elite talent for me to give up on the Cowboys at this point.
Is there?
Yes. You mentioned Diggs and Bland.
Who
Micah Parsons. CeeDee Lamb is an elite player.
1 of 11.
Dak Prescott's an elite regular season quarterback.
Yeah, like Dak's fine. I'll put Dak in that conversation. But like, their second best receiver is Brandon Cooks. Yeah. And when teams doubled CD, which they have done multiple times on plenty of downs so far this year, Brandon Cooks becomes your de facto number 1.
I'm not ready to go all the way to busted yet with the Cowboys. I think they're going to beat the brakes off the Giants tonight, and then we'll see what happens from there. But they're another team where the vibes are a little off, kind of like the Bengals. So it could go south in a hurry for them. I think there's enough talent there on defense, and Mike Zimmer's been a good coordinator in the league. I think they'll figure some things out. I think they're not out of the mix in that division yet either. I can't go busted with them just yet.
I will.
3-0 Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are 3-0 to start their season. They have beaten the Giants, the 49ers, and the Texans. Their defense has been incredible. They are at the Packers this Sunday, host the Jets, then go to their bye week in week 6. I'm going to start here. I know that Brian Flores has that defense cooking. I know that Sam Darnold looks great through 3 weeks. I speak very highly of Kevin O'Connell. That being said,
busted.
I'm still not in on the Vikings. That's a team that I don't think on the defensive side has the elite talent to keep this cooking. I think this is a scheme win right now, and I think teams will adjust. And I think by the second half of the season, teams will have a solution for the things that Brian Flores does.
I really would like to say trusted. They play Green Bay this weekend. Jordan Love may be back. Seems like it might be slightly trending in that direction. And when you've got a really good quarterback, that's the best way to beat a Brian Flores defense, because they can't just bring pressure on you and cook the quarterback constantly. You can actually, when you've got guys who can beat pressure, you find success against Flores defenses. That being said, I think you're right about the top end talent, but they've got so many pieces that are just great fits for Flores. Like Jonathan Greenard, who they pretty much swapped Greenard for Daniil Hunter this offseason. Great fit for that team. Andrew Van Ginkel in the Flores system is like the perfect player. He's the final missing piece of a defense for Flores. Harrison Smith's 1,000,000 years old, but he's still effective-ish. I like Sam Darnold, but I can't trust Sam Darnold. And he has gotten away with some mistakes.
3 fumbles already. Like, he's still going to be loose with the football.
He has thrown some passes that you really should not throw. And sometimes you say, hey, you're confident. Sometimes you say, what the hell are you doing? They might win this weekend. They might beat Green Bay. They might go 12-5 or something. But I do not trust them, and thus I must bust them.
One more for the trusted or busted game here 3 weeks in. The San Francisco 49ers, 1-2, beat the Jets on Monday night in their opener, but have since lost to the Vikings and the Rams. Both losses, bad losses. The Rams loss, almost incomprehensible. They've got the Patriots at home and the Cardinals at home the next 2 weeks before heading to Seattle for Thursday Night Football and then hosting the Chiefs and the Cowboys the 2 weeks after that. Are the beat-up 49ers trusted or busted? I'll start.
Busted.
I don't think they're a real Super Bowl contender if they don't get all the way healthy. And by
Fair.
all the way healthy, that means Christian McCaffrey is in Germany right now getting his knee checked out. They don't send you to Germany if you've got a normal injury. Like, that's not something they do if like rest and rehab is going to be fine. I don't love that for them. I know Jordan Mason has played well, but like, the whole thing for the 49ers is offensively, it's the elite scheme, but it's also the elite talent. And right now, McCaffrey's on the shelf. Kittle's on the shelf. Trent Williams is 1,000,000 years old. Brandon Ayuk is a ghost. Deebo Samuel has been banged up. Brock Purdy has been banged up. That's not the kind of thing that tends to get better over the course of a 17-game season and then into the postseason. They've played a lot of football with a lot of deep postseason runs, which is a similar concern you could have for the Chiefs. I don't know. Like, I sort of feel like if they don't get themselves real healthy and back on song offensively, it's going to be a tough road to hoe. Already 2 games back in the division, and then they've got to go to Seattle for Thursday Night Football. If they lose that game, they're going to be in a real hole.
Yeah, and no Javon Hargrave up front defensively
another
either.
Injury. Yeah, another
he was injured this past weekend. Also, I'll say busted. I'll go with busted. The other problem here,
Busted.
You want to talk about talent. Like, offensively, we know about their talent. Defensively, their linebacker core without even with Fred Warner, without Drake Greenlaw, it sucks. Like, Devondre Campbell can't play. He is unplayably bad right now. Former All-Pro, he cannot play. Their 3 linebackers in base are Fred Warner, Devondre Campbell, and Demetrius Flanagan-Fowles. That's icky.
Yeah,
like,
just
good. Don't put the ball near Fred Warner, and that's all you have to do. Their pass rush isn't great right now. I do like their secondary, but they have not gotten what we thought Talanoa Hufanga would be before he got hurt last year. Jair Brown is just whatever. Their corners are good. Diamador Lenore and Trevarius Ward. That's a good pairing. But yeah, I don't know that they have as talented of a roster defensively as we make them out to have, because they've got Bosa and Ward and Warner, and the injuries are piling up.
Yeah. That's trusted or busted week 3. We'll revisit that later on in the NFL season. Right now, we got to take a break. What is wrong with you's next on 580 Sports Talk. Time for a round of What Is Wrong With You on 580 Sports Talk. It's our last one for September, our final weekly champion. We'll have our semifinals tomorrow. Current champion, dog looks like a panda from China. The folks who were at a zoo and they painted dogs to look like pandas. And no one was fooled because pandas and dogs are very different animals. For my story today, we're going to the happiest place on earth, Disneyland. It was not a very happy time for one park goer who was put in handcuffs and escorted out of the park in Anaheim as her crying children screamed and held on. The video footage has been making the rounds on TikTok, showing an unidentified woman yelling obscenities while police and park personnel boot her out of Disney's California Adventure. While many online speculated the woman was kicked out for drinking too much, TMZ has learned that was not the case. Anaheim police tell TMZ the woman in the video allegedly tried to pass off her children as under 2 years old. You can see in the film footage, those kids are not under 2. Why would she try to do that? Well, if they're under 2, they get in free. But they were clearly older, and she got in trouble for it. She was arrested for trespassing and booked and released on a citation. Rules apply to everyone.
Yeah, what is wrong with you to the employees at the gate not noticing that these very obviously older than 2 children are not 2 and under?
Yeah, like very obvious, like incredibly obvious that they are not 2. Like maybe my giant son will be that big when he's 2.
This girl's taking a business phone call in the park. Like, gigantic.
Unbelievable. Yeah. All right, what do you got?
All right, my story is taking us to Palm Coast, Florida, where a woman went to jail after she attacked a man with steak knives and a bottle opener.
Oh, my goodness.
34-year-old Daylene Keller was arrested on charges of aggravated battery and domestic battery. Friday, deputies were called to a home in Palm Coast regarding a woman, Keller, attacking a man. The victim told law enforcement the incident started when he left Keller at a bar because he wanted to leave and she didn't. The two met up with each other later that night, and that's when deputies said Keller grabbed 3 steak knives and a bottle opener and began attacking him. Deputies say that she threw a knife at him as he hid behind a chair, and when he tried to disarm her, she stabbed him in the forearm with the bottle opener.
Jeez.
Keller then threw 2 knives at him while he tried to run away, striking him in the back and in the ear. When law enforcement arrived, they found the man bleeding from 2 puncture wounds and a laceration. She is being held on $12,500 bond.
Unnecessarily violent. Man, yeah, steak knives, serrated edge. Yeah, man, you mean business if you're attacking with those.
The Disney story is funnier.
Yes.
So I'm going to pick that one today.
I think that one wins today, but no, I do not think dog looks like a panda.
No contest.
That's looking like it's a strong contender for the month. That's our winner on What Is Wrong With You. Paul Myerberg joins us next for the Big 12 football breakdown. 580 Sports Talk continues on this Thursday afternoon. Dan and Brendan hanging out with you here in the capital city. And it is time for that Big 12 breakdown with Paul Myerberg of USA Today, covering college football for the USA Today folks, and joining us every Thursday on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. And Paul, it was not a real fun weekend of football in the Sunflower State. Got to be completely honest with you. So let's get your thoughts first on the in-state teams coming out of last Saturday. K-State takes one on the chin at BYU 38-9 after 6.5 minutes of about the worst football anybody's going to play all season. Was that reason for long-term concern, or did K-State just catch a bad one on a great night in Provo for that BYU team?
Yeah, bad night, good team, and they played a very, very poor game, certainly in that 7 or 8 minute of game time span. We exist in a different era now, guys, as we know. So I look at this game differently than I would have in the past. For the first part, the 12-team playoff has eliminated the destruction of a single loss. Single losses do not matter. They really, really don't. And single games don't matter, even though single wins obviously sometimes can be the difference between making it and not as an at-large bid. So this is a game that suffered, that you struggled in, you suffer the consequences, but it doesn't derail you from anything that you want to achieve. So I think they got to leave it in the rearview mirror. We spoke last week about the two factors to decide that game. It was the atmosphere of that stadium, a very difficult place to play at night, and then it was the physical environment. Needed to play a game that did not allow BYU to have any air, because BYU, only way they were going to win that game is by what unfolded. In a different team like KU, you look at that and you think this is a real issue that they melted down over a 7-minute span. I just look at the consistency of Kansas State as a program, as a coaching staff, and I say, turn the page. Turn the page to Oklahoma State, remind people what you're about, and go achieve what you can achieve as a team because you're that good. So I'm moving past it. Things happen. Obviously, like you said, I don't think another Power 4 contender is going to have a 7-minute span like that across the entire country this season. That stings. But again, like, this is an 8-win, churn it out kind of program or better. They're going to put this behind them, face Oklahoma State, get back on track. I really don't think this one's going to linger.
You mentioned the Oklahoma State matchup, so let's go right there. A matchup that certainly lost its luster with the results of last Saturday. K-State losing on the road, and then Oklahoma State losing at home to Utah and a true freshman quarterback, and not really doing anything on offense until it got frantic for them in the fourth quarter. How do you make out this matchup, and do you think Oklahoma State is in real trouble? Because it looks like they're having some issues at the quarterback spot, and Ollie Gordon this year does not look like the Ollie Gordon of 2023.
Yeah, and I can't pinpoint. First, actually, the quarterback situation. I like a lot of people, you like the Alan Bowman story. You like the fact that he stepped up last season and kind of saved their bacon. But this is a limited position group, and it's just not a good room. They got against a real team like Utah, and you see the results. In terms of Gordon, I have no idea why it is that this kid went from being a Heisman contender to being a guy who could have gone and made millions to being a tremendous underachiever. I can't pinpoint it. But if I'm Kansas State, I pop in tape on Sunday morning of that Utah game, and I love what I see. I mean, I just love what I see. Because Utah's game plan is so repeatable for Kansas State. It's right in the wheelhouse, and you're at home. I mean, it is just a perfect place right now for Kansas State to get right against a team that, even with that loss, is a ranked opponent with a lot of eyeballs on this game. Suffocate Oklahoma State at the line of scrimmage. Get Avery Johnson to be more comfortable, have him limit those mistakes. And this is a game that you just win. This is a game that you churn out and you win. I'm not scared of Oklahoma State after seeing them against Utah. I don't think Kansas State is either. It just seems like the perfect opportunity against a team that looks good on paper, but in reality does not match up well with Kansas State.
Paul Myerberg is our guest. He covers college football for America's newspaper, USA Today and usatoday.com. And he joins us every Thursday here on 580 Sports Talk for the Big 12 breakdown via the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline. The other team in the state, although they're not going to play any more home games in the state of Kansas this year, that's the Kansas Jayhawks. They lost 32-28 to West Virginia in Morgantown this past week, had a late lead, squandered it. 2 straight touchdowns by West Virginia ended the game in a Mountaineers win. Very simple question for you here, Paul, and we sort of got to this a little bit last week. Is Kansas just bad again?
Look, a trend is developing, right? The trend is this. If you squint close enough, you see a 4-0 team. And that's the truth. I mean, one thing differently against Illinois. Literally, you pick up a fumble against UNLV. That's 3-0. Last week, you get one defensive stop. You're 4-0. So I don't think that they're bad. What I'm struggling with here is this, guys. Like, Kansas did not X and O their way back onto the map. They didn't out-talent teams back onto the map. I'm not disputing that those play enormous roles. Coaching and talent are the be-all, end-all in 99% of the cases. I believe Kansas has confidence and belief. I know that sounds so stupid and silly, but this team believed these last few years when no one else did. And that's not a coincidence. They were led to believe that they could be great. And then they went out and they were really, really good. There's no confidence from this team. There's no energy. There's no enthusiasm. There's tentativeness. There's hesitancy from Jalen Daniels on down. And that's like trickling through the entire program. And that, to me, that's the difference between winning these games and losing these games, is a lack of belief and a lack of confidence in who you are and what you can be about. So again, like Kansas State, I think it's fixable to a degree. I don't think they're this bad, but they're in a situation now where it's one more loss that you can kind of write off a bowl bid at 1-4 or 2-4 or 2-5. I mean, that's obviously not going to happen. That's a disappointment. That would be a letdown. They've got to get right mentally, because mentally is where it's at for KU. Get back on track, get back into believing that you can be what you were the last 2 years, and kind of flip that switch. Easier said than done. I don't know how they do it, but it's there. The potential is there. It's just a matter of completion, and they're not finishing games, and that's a matter of just choking in a moment where they hadn't really choked for several years. They believed in themselves and others didn't, and now it doesn't seem like they have that same faith.
Well, and I know that belief in the fan base and certain media members also shaken, yours truly, because you talk about squinting and this team could be 4-0. I mean, you look over just the last 3 games. Illinois better than I think most of us expected, but I still like KU's top-end talent more than I like Illinois'. KU is certainly a better team than UNLV, and God only knows what that program is going to look like going forward. Last weekend, I didn't think West Virginia was all that great. Like, I'm not impressed by Garrett Green. They had a totally torn-up secondary. KU still comes up short. You look ahead to this week, playing TCU, a team that can't stop a nosebleed on the ground, with a quarterback who is like a fever dream every single time he drops back. This, to me, with KU's run game and defensive talent, I think they should win. I don't know that Paul, can believe that they can win, given the way they have looked, especially late in games recently.
That's the big thing, and you're exactly right. You look on paper. This is, again, in a similar way to Kansas State, Oklahoma State, it's a matchup on paper that you like. You like it for the reasons you exactly mentioned. Defensive improvement. TCU can't stop anything. They just go up 66 to SMU. And the fact that you can kind of control the tempo and the flow of the game. You would think, Kansas, this is the get-right Saturday. But you really can't say that. You can't say that because this is not a 60-minute football team. It's like a 28-minute football team. And scattered within those 28 minutes are like 2 minutes where you have no idea what's going on, where it's a clown show, where guys are falling all over themselves, mental mistakes, physical mistakes. They've got to get right before Saturday because, again, like 1-4, season's over. The season's over. At that point, you're just playing for pride because you're probably not making a bowl game and you're certainly not doing anything that you thought you could have achieved back in August. It's the biggest game of the year. Let's just put it out there. It is the biggest game of the year because the year goes in 2 directions based off Saturday. It either gets back on track and you're a 6-7, maybe even 8-win team in the bowl game, or you're 5-7, you're sitting at home in December. And going 5-7 right now for this program and this team, that's a huge, huge, huge step back in an era where you've got to really mess up as a Power 4 team not to make a bowl game. That'd be a step back, and I think people would pay attention to that and start to doubt Kansas again because there are people who don't want to believe in Kansas because they grew up seeing Kansas be terrible. It's a key game. I don't want to overrate it, but it is a huge, huge game, I think, for this season.
The visitors that are making the trip to Arrowhead Stadium in Kansas City, TCU, you mentioned it. They gave up all those points to SMU a week ago. I mean, that defense is a sieve right now. And again, they're especially bad against the run. I think that's a great matchup for KU when you've got a guy like Devin Neal, who now might be the best running back in the Big 12. This TCU team, they scored offensively a ton of points against SMU, but when you have 400 possessions in a game, you should score 6 touchdowns. Do you like Josh Hoover? Are you a Josh Hoover guy? Because I can't buy in. I know he's got the talent. I know there are splash plays. I cannot buy into this inconsistency, though.
Yeah, it's the inconsistency that kills you, and I guarantee you, Sonny Dykes, when he got kicked out of the game on Saturday, the one thing he said is, I don't have to watch this anymore because it drives him nuts. And that's a problem. And look, like, you go back through his era, through the Sonny Dykes era of coaching at all of his stops, the one thing that his quarterbacks always have done effectively is, despite the high volume, they're careful with their throws, they're great with their footwork, and they stay within the framework of the offense. And when guys ad-lib or get out of their own lane, that's bad news for the entire offense. And just to mention their defense, go back further. Go back to the final, 18 minutes of UCF, 20 minutes of UCF. I mean, this defense has cratered. So if there ever was, to say it again, a get-right day for Kansas where they can make a statement against a team and a program that still resonates, it's Saturday. But if they come up short and TCU treats KU as like, hey, this is our get-back-on-track game, that's bad. That's bad because TCU is kind of hurting right now. And if KU can smell blood and take them out, I think that's an opportunity to make a statement.
Paul Myerberg of USA Today is our guest on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. This is the Big 12 football breakdown on 580 Sports Talk. Paul, who the heck is the second best team in the Big 12 right now?
Oh, gosh. I still say Kansas State. I still do. And look, and I might even say Kansas State's still the best team in the conference because I don't really know what Utah looks like with Rising yet. And we might not know for a couple weeks. Iowa State's in that conversation, clearly. Central Florida is a team I've liked all along. They're still pretty solid. They're going to beat up on Colorado on Saturday if they end up playing that game. I still think Kansas State, if they're not the team to beat, they're the team that Utah looks at and says, this is a team that can beat us. And I don't really know, guys, if Utah, by the way, no shortage of confidence, right? Going from the Pac-12 where they kind of ruled it for a bit to this conference. They believe that they can win this thing running away. I think they look at Kansas State and think that's the one team that can beat us when we play our game because they can play our game too. And in the sense, if we don't have Rising, they can do it better than we can. So I'm not shying away from Kansas State. To reiterate, whatever happened on Saturday happened. You got to move past it. This team can still win this conference, maybe even should still win this conference. The room for error is gone, but they should still, at the minimum, I believe, participate in the Big 12 championship game. I think it'll come down to Farmageddon. I believe that's at home, right, guys, at the end of the season? I might have that wrong, but that's the game I think that'll decide who plays Utah. And I think Kansas State wins that game.
That game, Paul, we're looking it up. It is, in fact, in Ames. It is in Ames.
Okay.
So, yeah, tougher place to go play. But
so Iowa State goes to Utah and hosts Kansas State their final two games.
Right.
So I mixed that up. But that's the be-all, end-all. I still think Kansas State is a team to beat in this conference. Again, stuff happens. You lose bad games. You look ugly doing it. They're going to turn the page. I think they're going to start Saturday getting back in gear.
Paul, the most fascinating game, or a game that is more fascinating than I thought it was going to be when the schedule came out, Colorado at UCF. The Golden Knights off to a great start, and Colorado won. They needed a miracle, but they got the miracle, and they beat Baylor to start 1-0 in Big 12 play. Do you think this matchup is intriguing based on Colorado's form and the vibes? They are a vibes team strictly right now, it feels like. Or do you think this is a game where UCF just dares them to stop the run and spanks them for 60 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, this almost feels like a paycheck game to me for UCF. Thanks for coming. Everyone's going to watch us beat the heck out of you because UCF is dramatically better than Colorado. Colorado faces real teams. They either get bullied like Nebraska or they need a miracle against Baylor. And by the way, if you're a Baylor fan, you're like, Shedeur Sanders is a god because we don't have to deal with Dave Aranda anymore. So I just don't believe in Colorado. And I would dare anyone to tell me why they believe in them, other than the fact that they've got maybe the best player in the country. I'm disputing my own case. They got the best player in the country and they got an elite quarterback. Everything else is a mess. They've got a great freshman left tackle. Everything else is a mess. They don't use their Ohio State running back. The receiver core is a little bit overrated. They're going to go to UCF, and if the weather permits, and it's not a chewied up, muddy field that limits what they can do, UCF should run all over them. Again, this is a lot of team Super Bowls to play Colorado because so many eyeballs are on it. UCF is a little bit better than that, but still an opportunity to make a statement. And I guarantee you there's 110 guys on the roster on that sideline on Saturday who want to get in the game and beat up on Colorado.
All right, Paul, dumpster juice pick of the week. Last week, I believe we got it right. Cincinnati just massacred Houston. That game was not competitive for a single second. 34-0 was the score. So we're in the win column for that one. This time, we've got a rivalry game. We're going to the Mountain Time Zone, the battle for I-25, New Mexico at New Mexico State. Those teams stink. Who you got?
I got New Mexico State. New Mexico made one of the great hires in the group of five recent history in getting Bronco Mendenhall. He's going to win there. I mean, there's no doubt about it. New Mexico State, a little bit farther along, but obviously they're not as good as they've been. I am going with the Aggies. It's in Las Cruces. I've been there before. I don't ever want to go back. But I think it's a hard place to play. I don't really know.
Strange things happen in Las Cruces. That is Paul Myerberg of USA Today. He joins us every week on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline for the Big 12 football breakdown. Paul, it is always a pleasure. Enjoy the games, and we'll talk next week.
Great, gentlemen. Thank you. Talk next week.
That's Paul Myerberg. We're back to wrap up the hour after this. Caller number 3 right now to 785-272-9429. Caller number 3, 785-272-9429. You're going to K-State, Oklahoma State on Saturday. Back for more on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk, third hour, final hour of this Thursday afternoon. Thanks so much for being with us on 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and on the video stream on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on Facebook at WIBW News. I am Dan Lucero, and I'm all alone. Everyone has left me for the day. Spencer Dupuis out today. He'll be back tomorrow. Brendan Dworzinski's off to Skinny's Sports Bar and Grill here in the capital city for another edition of the Washburn Football Coaches Show. Brendan will be joined by the head coach of the Ichabods, Craig Schurig, breaking down last week's game and previewing this week's game from 6 to 7 tonight out at Skinny's, located at Huntoon and Gage in Topeka. You can hear the Washburn Football Coaches Show over on our sister station, the home of the Ichabods, Country 106.9. You can catch it online as well at mycountry1069.com. So that's where Brendan is. That's where Spencer is. So it is just me. People watching the YouTube have noticed we've gone to the one camera. It's just me hanging out in the control room with you the rest of the way. We've got one more hour to get to today, and we got some headlines to get to, including the Big 12 basketball schedules released today. We'll discuss that, as well as the Chiefs injury report and a concerning addition to the Chiefs injury report today, and a whole lot of concerning news on the Chargers injury report as the Chiefs get ready to take on the Chargers in LA this coming Sunday. Also, new classifications for Keisha for 2024 and 2025 as well. And two local teams are impacted by that, so we'll get to those as well in our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Also, still to come this hour, the great Mitch Holthus joins us, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs. He joins us courtesy of our friends at Hy-Vee and Zurich Credit Union, and we will chat with him in just about 20 minutes or so, get his thoughts, his final thoughts on the win in Atlanta on Sunday, and a look ahead to this game against the Chargers. And what will it look like if all of these walking wounded for the Chargers aren't able to get to game day? Well, could not be a worse injury report, I don't think, for the Chargers. So we'll discuss that and all other things Chiefs related with Mitch Holthus. We'll also look ahead to what's on tap tonight. Big sports night tonight. Of course, you've got Thursday Night Football on Amazon Prime. Dallas and the Giants are coming up tonight. We will have that game, and also bring you that game tonight right here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. We'll have Thursday Night Football on the radio if you're not able to watch it on television. There's also some Thursday night college football and a big baseball game in the Twin Cities tonight. That'll be of interest to Royals fans. I don't know if it will be. I don't think MLB Network's going to pick it up. I don't honestly know, but something of interest to follow along with as the Royals get closer to a playoff berth. Again, narrowing their magic number to 2. We'll go ahead and start our headlines with that on our 580 Sports Talk headlines. The magic number for a Royals playoff berth is down to 2 after their 7-4 win this afternoon over the Washington Nationals. You heard it here on 580 WIBW before we started 580 Sports Talk today. The Royals erupting offensively for 7 runs, their highest single game output. Gosh, it's been a while. I'm trying to think the last time the Royals scored that many runs in a game. It wasn't recently. Can promise you that. I think you have to go back to, man, when was it? It was the first game against Pittsburgh. So it wasn't that far back, I guess. It was the first game on that road trip to Pittsburgh, for the road series in Pittsburgh. They scored 8 runs in that game. That was the last time the Royals had scored as many runs as they did in a game today. 3 of those 7 coming to break a 4-4 tie in the top of the 9th. Adam Frazier, the hero, with his 2-run single. Salvador Perez would follow later with an RBI knock through the middle. Lucas Erceg knocking down or locking up his 3rd save in as many days as the Royals complete a sweep of the Nationals. That's actually why Spencer's not on the show today. That's what we should have said all along, is that Spencer's in mourning because his Nationals got swept, and that's why he didn't come to 580 Sports Talk today. There's actual reasons that are not that, but that's the line we should have gone with at the beginning of the show. Anyhow, the Royals go to 85-74 with the win. And their magic number is 2. And again, a reminder of what that actually means. It means that any combination of Royals wins and Twins losses equal to 2 put the Royals in the playoffs. Because the Twins are still the team that is behind, the team that is out of the picture right now. The Royals and Tigers continue to be tied. And the Royals have the tiebreaker because they won the season series over the Tigers. So even though the Tigers can't lose all of a sudden, the Royals are still ahead of them in the standings, technically, by the tiebreaker. So right now, the Royals would be the 5 seed if it ended today, and the Tigers would be the 6 seed. So if the Royals match the Tigers this weekend or exceed what the Tigers do record-wise, not bloody likely. The Tigers can't lose, and they're playing a team that can't win, the White Sox, while the Royals have to go out and play a Braves team that is very much playing for something in this final weekend of the season. But if the Royals match or better the Tigers' record, the Royals will be the 5th seed in the postseason. They cannot catch the Orioles, I don't believe. The Orioles were victorious last night over the Yankees. Well, I guess they could tie them, technically. If Baltimore lost out, the Royals could catch Baltimore, but I think Baltimore's got the tiebreaker over the Royals. They played their games back in April, very different Royals team, and the Royals, I think, took 2 out of 3 in both of those series in Baltimore and in Kansas City. I'm going to double check on that, make sure that's correct for us before move any further with that. I'm pretty sure that's right. I know Baltimore took 2 out of 3 at Camden Yards, and they did take 2 out of 3 at the K in April as well. So the Royals cannot catch Baltimore. They cannot get the 4 seed and home field advantage. So if there is to be playoff baseball in the wild card round for the Royals, it will be on the road as either the 5th or the 6th seed in those best of 3 series. So that's the negative, I suppose. But Detroit does have the tiebreaker over Baltimore. So if Baltimore loses tonight to the Yankees, they're still going to have to win at least one more to make sure Detroit doesn't catch them and overtake them for that number 4 seed potentially. And the reason that is important is because Baltimore finishes their season with 3 games in Minnesota against the Twins. So that's who the Twins play to end their season. At least they're at home, but it's a good Baltimore team that might be playing for something. And tonight, Minnesota's got their game against Miami. More about that a bit later on. But again, the magic number is 2. The Royals take 2 out of 3 in Atlanta. It doesn't matter what anyone else does. They're in the playoffs. If they win 1, the Twins need a win out. If they don't win any, the Twins could go 3-1 and pip them at the end. But let's not think about that. Royals that close, this close to postseason baseball. Next up on our 580 Sports Talk headlines, and again, love you to weigh in on the Top City Mail Supply text line, 785-272-9429. If you're watching on YouTube or Facebook, you can interact with us, I guess just me now, and our fellow listeners in the comments in the YouTube live chat. Appreciate all of you who have hung out with us on this Thursday afternoon. Next headline, we'll go to the Chiefs injury report today, or participation report, if you will, for their game at the Chargers on Sunday. Mike Dana added to the participation report today as a DNP, did not practice with a calf injury. This is something new. Just popped up because he was not listed on the report yesterday. So Dana was held out of practice today with a calf injury. Nothing from anybody yet. We'll hear from Andy Reid tomorrow, and he'll let us know what we need to know about Dana's status for Sunday. Shamari Connor, also a new addition to the participation report with a heel injury, but he was a full participant today, as were the other 4 players who had previously been listed on the participation report. Nick Bolton, Derek Nottie, Rashee Rice, and Jalen Watson, all full participants in practice today. As for the Chargers, 5 DNPs listed today. No big deal. Just both starting tackles, Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater, and outside linebacker Joey Bosa. and linebacker Junior Colson and wide receiver Darius Davis. All 4 of those players did not practice today. Davis had been limited Wednesday, so that's a downgrade in status for him. Those other 4 players, all Bosa, Colson, Slater, all DNPs for a second straight day. Players listed as limited in practice today include starting quarterback Justin Herbert, tight end Hayden Hurst, cornerback Christian Fulton, tackle Trey Pipkins, and cornerback Jasir Taylor. Those players all limited today. For Pipkins, that was a return to practice after he did not practice yesterday, so they had him back on a limited basis. It's back-to-back days of limited participation for Herbert, who told the media yesterday that his plan is to try and play, that there has been no thought given because the Chargers have the really early bye. They're off next week. No thought given at this point for Herbert to just shut it down and give it this week in the bye week and let it heal. He sounds like he wants to play. I would assume that we're going to see Herbert try and play, but he only made it a half against the Steelers last week. So again, we'll see. I would assume the long-term health of Herbert would be of greater importance than the short-term benefit for having him out there on one good wheel against a Chiefs defense that likes to blitz, but that's a Jim Harbaugh decision. It's not in my hands. Otito Ogbonnia, the defensive lineman who did not practice yesterday for the Chargers, was back as a full participant today, as was Khalil Mack, Joshua Palmer, and a late addition to the participation report, Stone Smart, who was a full participant today, but dealing with a finger injury that got him listed on the list today. So it's a slightly better injury report for the Chargers, but their starting tackles look very unlikely to play. And do you really want to put a hobbled quarterback behind a line beat up like that? Also, Joey Bosa may not go. So it is a very, very banged up squad that the Chargers are going to send out there against the Chiefs on Sunday. Continuing our 580 Sports Talk headlines, quick local note as Keisha released their classifications for 2024-25 today for all non-football sports. 2 moves in Shawnee County to make a note of. Hayden is moving back up to Class 4A. You may recall Hayden was in 3A last year, and I believe the year before that they might have been 3A as well. They've been kind of right on the cusp, but they're back up to 4A this year. That is noteworthy. Of course, Hayden's girls and boys basketball teams both went to state last year in Class 3A in particular, but they will move back up to 4A this year. Rossville, meanwhile, moves down to Class 2A. Of course, in football, they've been at 2A for a few years, and this year moved down to 1A. So in all other sports, Rossville moving down to Class 2A this year. Those are the only moves of local note in the Keisha reclassifications for this year. Last thing we'll get to here in our 580 Sports Talk headlines, the Big 12 basketball schedules were released today for both the men and the women. And that means we know who and when K-State and KU will be playing. So rather than run through the whole schedules, let's give you the highlights of both K-State and KU's conference slate. We'll start with the Wildcats. They will open Big 12 play at home Monday, December 30th. This was leaked yesterday, but made official today. Monday, December 30th will be the Big 12 opener for Kansas State at Bramlage Coliseum against Cincinnati, who beat K-State in Cincinnati last season. Other big games for K-State. And you'll notice a theme here, and I think this is really smart. You'll notice a theme for a lot of the real headline games this year for both K-State and KU. Houston comes to Bramlage Coliseum, a team that will be preseason top 5. They have a shot at being preseason number 1. I think they're going to be the preseason number 1 in the Big 12. It's going to be either them or Kansas, and it's going to be really close. But Houston's going to be awesome again this year. Houston come to Bramlage on Saturday, February 11th. The next Saturday is the first Sunflower Showdown. K-State will go to KU on Saturday, January 18th. 2 Saturdays after that, K-State goes to Hilton Coliseum to take on Iowa State. Be Jerome Tang's return to that building after all of the unpleasantness / nonsense we saw last year. The Saturday after that, it's the return game in the Sunflower Showdown. K-State hosting KU at Bramlage, February 8th. Then a big Tuesday night game for K-State as they welcome Arizona to Bramlage for the first time as a Big 12 foe. That's February 11th. Every team, it looks like, has a Sunday game. The Sunday game for K-State is February 23rd. They will play Arizona State at Bramlage Coliseum on that Sunday, and they will take on Iowa State in their regular season Big 12 finale on Saturday, March 8th. Those are the big games for K-State. For KU, they also open Big 12 play at home. It'll be Tuesday, December 31st, when they will host West Virginia. Their Sunday game is early. They play UCF at home on the 5th of January. That's also week 18 of the NFL season, if you were curious. KU's trip to Hilton is on a Wednesday night this year. The 15th of January, KU goes to Iowa State. That's 3 days ahead of their home game against K-State, the first Sunflower Showdown of the year. KU welcomes Houston the Saturday following that. The 25th of January, KU and Houston at Allen Fieldhouse. The next Saturday, KU is at Baylor, the 1st of February. Quick turnaround for KU to Big Monday, February 3rd against Iowa State, the return game in that great rivalry. And then that Saturday, KU is at K-State. That is a huge stretch of games for the Jayhawks to open February. At Baylor, home against Iowa State, at K-State in a 7-day stretch. Big Monday again for KU at Houston. That'll be March 3rd, final week of the regular season. And they will wrap up their regular season slate with a game at home against Arizona on Saturday, March 8th. Again, the trend there, Saturdays. Big games on Saturdays. A lot of the midweek games are the games against like Cincinnati and Texas Tech and Arizona State and UCF and that's all well and good. But the big games, the rivalry games, for the most part, are on Saturdays. That should make, I think, for really good crowds. And I think it will probably make for some great atmospheres and some good TV opportunities for both programs as well. I actually really like that. I think Saturdays are good days for big college basketball games. It appears the Big 12 agrees. Real quick note from the women's schedule, the dates for the Sunflower Showdowns this season: February 2nd, K-State women at Kansas. February 22nd is the return date for KU to come to Bramlage Coliseum. Those are our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Chiefs, will join us here on 580 Sports Talk. 527 on 580 Sports Talk. It's just Dan hanging out with you the rest of the way, but we've got a guest joining us here as he does every Thursday throughout the Kansas City Chiefs season. It is the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, Mitch Holthus, who joins us courtesy of our friends at Azura Credit Union and Hy-Vee. Speaking of Azura Credit Union, contact Crystal Rippey, Kirsten McCall, or Kristen Ambergy about the Credit Union Advantage of getting your first or next home loan. Mitch Holthus joining us now on the phone. And Mitch, another close one down in Atlanta, but boy, another clutch stop late by this defense. And we're getting really used now to seeing the Chiefs defense when it's time to stand up and be counted. Boy, they sure have a knack for coming up with the game-winning stop. We think about you don't want to leave too much time for Mahomes. It kind of feels like, well, you don't want to be on the field against that defense when push comes to shove either.
Well, and it's now been a year and a half, really, for the most part, and people are pleading, let's not have it boil down to that. But still, and I've got a nugget for you that might be the biggest nugget I've ever given to you. We'll save that for later in the segment so we can keep people listening. But, defensively, to have the whole teams of 28 points or less now for 24 straight games, which I think is the third most in the last quarter century, tells you a lot about this defense and the fact that don't look at total defense. That's a fool's gold stat to look at. I don't care whether you're doing Topeka High or Cara Paravel. Total, it's the scoring defense, obviously, that makes, and the Chiefs have been very good. They dig their heels in. And to get two stops in this last game against Atlanta, one at the 6 and one at the 13, just doesn't happen very often in football at any level, especially the NFL.
Nick Bolton making the tackle that sealed the game on that fourth down play. And I thought it was really neat to hear him kind of break it down after the game because there's so many moving parts to the play, but he's only able to make that play because he trusts his teammates. He trusted that Leo Chanel would hold up his block and that he'd be able to shoot that gap. But that also, I think, is really revealing of the intelligence of Nick Bolton and what he gives this Chiefs defense. He can be at times a player where you sort of look at him, he's a bit of a Rorschach test. You see what you want to see with a player like Bolton, who has his strengths and weaknesses like any other player. But I thought his strengths were really on display, in particular that Sunday night.
Well, one of his biggest strengths was his ability to prepare. Because, and I wish I would have called this, everything happened so fast. Atlanta didn't quick snap the ball, but Algier was in the backfield at the same time with Bijan Robinson. It's the first time they had done that the entire game. And I think that Nick Bolt said that they only do that. There's only a certain few plays that they run when they're in that set. So Atlanta, I think, gave the Chiefs a tip there when they put Algier and Bijan Robinson in at the same time. But then, too, not to go straight ahead. I don't know what Atlanta's thinking. They do a perimeter run that allowed Bolt the chance to shoot the gap and to make the play. But that's a whole other matter. That would be more of an Atlanta discussion. But for Bolt to do his homework and realize, oh, wait a minute, it's Algier in here at the same time as Bijan Robinson. That means it's got to be these four plays, unless they put something in for us. But at that time, the chance that take the chance, go with your ability to do the homework, and it worked. Then it was a great job of execution by Bolt, but also his preparation and knowing that Atlanta gave them a special circumstance in that instance.
We're talking to Mitch Holthus, the voice of the Kansas City Chiefs, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk, again, a courtesy of Hy-Vee and Azura Credit Union. We had talked about it earlier this week on the show, Mitch. This Chiefs offense so far this year has been very efficient. Their success rate is one of the highest in football, and they were tremendously successful moving the ball, sustaining drives on a play-to-play basis against the Falcons. But the explosive plays that we grew accustomed to seeing for years with Patrick Mahomes as the Chiefs quarterback just haven't been there. What do you think is the key to unlocking the explosiveness of this offense moving forward? Or are the Chiefs going to see a bunch more too high safety looks and Andy Reid's just going to say, look, if you're going to give us 6 yards every first down on a run, we're going to take it?
Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of, I'm going to give you a comprehensive answer here, because you're going to see too high safety even in this game, especially with Derwin James now being suspended for this game. Usually he likes to be more aggressive than playing too high. He doesn't like the game to come to him. He wants to go rip somebody's head off. That's why he's suspended. Okay. But to answer your question, a couple things. One, you can attack the middle of that field, and the Chiefs have done that to some extent. It has just not been consistent. The other way you can get a chunk play out of that. Think of Rashee Rice here. Rashee Rice runs a middle route or slice route, and he breaks a tackle. All of a sudden, you've got a 30-plus play on your hands. Now, the other thing you can do is take your shots at numbers to boundary and throw it deep. They did it against Cincinnati. Remember the interception by Cam Taylor-Britt? Or a better memory would be the 44-yard touchdown to Rashee Rice. Pretty much same play. Numbers to boundary go route. Could be a double move, but you're still going to stay on that part of the field. Because football at any level, if I'm playing too high safety, my too high safety is not setting at the numbers or the boundary. You don't leave the middle of the field exposed like that. So you take your shot, you get a one-on-one play against a corner. Maybe a safety comes over the top, but more than likely you're occupying that safety with routes in front of them. The 35-yarder for a touchdown against Baltimore is another example. That's a chunk play, still too high safety, but they were able to get something from the numbers to boundary. So two things. One, still work the middle of the field, stay patient, get chunk plays with your runs after catch or yards after catch guy, Rice and Kelsey. But then you're also going to take a shot on the outside that will yield some big plays that ends up being a 50-50 play many of the times.
Mitch Holthus, our guest here on 580 Sports Talk. Let's turn attention now to this Sunday's opponents, the first divisional game of the season. The Los Angeles Chargers await the Chiefs as you head out west to SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles. We know the Chargers were going to be different the minute they hired Jim Harbaugh, because Jim Harbaugh is a different kind of coach and has a different kind of football philosophy and has spent the time, put in the time this offseason to reshape the roster as best anyone can in 1 year in his image. But just how different are these Chargers based on what they run, what kind of plays they're calling, what positions they're putting Justin Herbert in? Just how different are the Chargers under Harbaugh?
You've seen this team before. You've seen them every year because they are the Baltimore Raven wannabe team of the AFC West. Hear me out on this. Now, John and Jim Harbaugh are very different brothers, very different. Okay, way different. Jim's a little quirky. He's got the old photogray 70s glasses. He's squinting. Kind of the nutty professor kind of guy. But what he's trying to do, Jim, is bring what John Harbaugh has done for 17 years with the Baltimore Ravens, and actually prior to that, before John took over as head coach, and that is to be a Steelers-Ravens kind of team. Run-centric. The Chargers, so far in the first 3 weeks, are 56% run-heavy. That's fourth in the league. You can guess who's the head of them. But they also have the fewest first downs of any team in the league. They're living off trying to just grind away, then use their defense to get takeaways. They have 5. They're +3 in the giveaway takeaway. That's how they're getting explosive plays, with their defense pretty much just pounding on you, and they'll play through the whistle, hence Derwin James's suspension. But on offense, they're going to get chunk plays 2 ways. One, runs by J.K. Dobbins. He's had 2 of the top rushing totals in the first 3 weeks of the season, 135 and 131. Yes, against the Raiders and Panthers, but still, he had a 61-yard run in there. So what the Charge, and then the other way they're getting chunk throws are doing exactly what I told you that the Chiefs could do against the too high safety, and that is sending Johnson and sending him deep. Quentin Johnson, the former first-round pick of TCU, and they've hit him deep 3 times, much like they do with Mike Williams. So this is a team that is vastly different than the Chargers have been with Justin Herbert at quarterback. This is Jim Harbaugh saying, we're going to be the Steelers or Ravens. We're going to pound on you. We're going to play to the whistle, wink, wink, get you frustrated, punch the ball out, may even punch you while we're punching the ball, but that's the way we're going to play. You ask, there's your story. Game, set, match. The Chargers want to be the Ravens.
With no Derwin James, you've alluded to it a couple of occasions. Derwin James suspended by the NFL for repeated violent conduct, I guess would be the way to put it. He's not going to play. He's appealed and lost, so he is out for Sunday's game. Travis Kelce, even with Derwin James on the field, has always gotten his and then some against these Chargers over the years. With no James on the field, and all of the talk and the hullabaloo and starting to turn into, is Travis Kelce past it? Is he past his prime? Is he getting old? This all lines up and feels very much to me like the Travis Kelce told you so game, the you must have forgot who I was game from Travis Kelce. How can the Chiefs get him more involved this week?
Well, and think about the veteran safeties he has played in the first 3 weeks. Jesse Bates III is good. So is Justin Simmons, who's near the end of his career, but still crafty and feisty. And then let's go to Cincinnati. They get, Geno Stone, who's crafty and feisty, and they get Von Bell back, crafty and feisty. And then you get the first week, you've got Kyle Hamilton, who might be the best safety in the league right now. Okay. Well, now with James out and suspended, you're down to Alohi Gilman. So to your point, I could see now he's not thinking that. Kels isn't thinking I'm going to prove you wrong. He's like, you'd be a fool to think, what's wrong with Kels? If you've watched him practice all this time and seen him work through the spring and summer, that yes, this could be a breakout game because you don't have the crafty, nasty Pro Bowl safety that he has faced 3 weeks in a row across from him with James out. So yeah, I could see a very productive game for Kels in this one.
All right, Mitch, we'll let you give us the nugget of the night. When you said you had a big one for us, this has all just been prelude for me. I'm dying to hear the nugget of the night for this contest, this divisional opener for the Chiefs on the road.
Okay. How many times have you had people maybe on the show or in casual conversation go, God, can they blow somebody out? All these nail biters are driving me crazy. Have you heard that conversation?
Yes, many times from my own in-laws. Yes.
Yes, for sure. It's daily, many times a day for me. Right, toenail game. Right, where field goal, hold them at the 6, hold them at the 13. The Chiefs have won 9 straight games. That includes their 4 playoff victories last year in Super Bowl 58. That's 9 straight games. The plus minus in that, the run differential, the point differential in those 9 games, Dan, is plus 54. That is the least point differential of any 9-game winning streak in the history of the National Football League.
Wow.
Let that one simmer in a bit. Now, I know you're probably up against a break, but let's talk about how different sports are when we talk about close games. If the Royals won 15 one-run games during the season, we would talk about how great it is. Would we not?
Oh,
they
yeah.
win close games. They're able to win the one-run game. If you do it in football, it's perceived as a weakness. If you do it and you beat the Bills and you beat the Ravens twice and you beat the 49ers and you beat the Bengals and you won at Atlanta and let's see, we won at the Chargers in a 13-12 game in Week 18 and you beat Cincinnati. That's who you played in this 9-game winning streak. I don't think it's a weakness to say, well, gosh, they didn't blow somebody out 40-3. It's almost like think of your baseball terms here and going, maybe that's a strength of this team instead of a weakness that they're able to win these games against high-quality opponents. But anyway, there you go. When I saw that, NFL research came up with it, I thought I dropped my jaw. I'm like, oh, my gosh, this makes sense, but it just tells you the path we've been on recently.
What it says to me, Mitch, and I said it on Monday, winning is a habit, and winning teams get in the habit of winning, and that's what the Chiefs are in right now. They're in the habit of winning games any way they have to win them.
You see it. You see it at all levels. High schools,
Mm-hmm.
You see it in the MIAA, you see it at all levels. And yes, winning is a habit. And the Chiefs have that. I'm not saying it to be cocky, but that's why your quarterback is the winningest quarterback in NFL history in his first 100 games. And the fact that he's won 38 on the road, 37 at home, and 2 in international play. Like, it's a habit with the dude. Doesn't matter. He travels. He does it at home. Coach Reid has the most road wins of any NFL coach since he became head coach of the Chiefs in 2013. Doesn't matter. Large margin, small margin, road, home, neutral. Winning teams figure out a way to win.
Mitch Holthus is the voice of a winning team, the Kansas City Chiefs, the 2-time defending champs. They are on the road at the Chargers on Sunday, a 3:25 kickoff. Mitch, enjoy sunny Los Angeles. Have a great call. We'll talk to you next Thursday.
If Jim Harbaugh could change their uniforms to purple and black, he could, but I don't think the NFL would let him.
Thanks for your time, Mitch. As always, we appreciate you. That is Mitch Holthus. Again, you can hear Chiefs football on Sunday on our sister station, the Big 94.5 Country, 94.5 FM, WIBW FM. That'll be where you can hear the Chiefs on Sunday, so we can bring you the Royals regular season finale against Atlanta. 2 o'clock pregame, 3:25 kickoff on the Big 94.5 Country, 94.5 WIBW FM. We'll take a break. We'll come back and tell you what's on tap for your sports evening. The Royals are already done. The magic number's down to 2. We're all Marlins man tonight. We'll talk about that next on 580 Sports Talk. Rounded third, heading for home. It's 5:47 on 580 Sports Talk from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Dan Lucero hanging out with you again. Brendan Dworzinski has headed off to Skinny's Sports Bar and Grill for the Washburn Football Coaches Show. You can catch that from 6 to 7 tonight over on Country 106.9. We hope you do. Or you can just go out to Skinny's Sports Bar and Grill tonight and join Brendan and Washburn head coach Craig Schurig and just hang out with them in person. I mean, they'd appreciate that too. Grab a beer, some wings, have a nice night out at Skinny's, where every day is game day. And turn your attention to the television because there's games on tonight. It's a Thursday night. We got Thursday night football tonight. The Cowboys and the Giants. I generally want to avoid watching the Giants play football at all costs. They got a nice defense. Malik Neighbors looks like a superstar in the making at wide receiver. But the Giants are still a pretty grim watch, all things considered. The Cowboys need a bounce back. They are 5-point favorites, according to our friends at Prairie Band Casino, or rather Prairie Band Sportsbook, inside the Prairie Band Casino and Resort up in Mayetta. That line is Cowboys -5, total 44.5. I think the Cowboys are going to cover that. They got a lot more good players than the Giants do. I kind of think it might feel like Jets-Patriots last week, where one team was just a lot better than the other team. And I am no Cowboy fan, no Cowboy honk here. I just think that that's a team with some talent, and they've got to bounce back in them, and I think we're going to see it tonight. A very productive night for CeeDee Lamb, I foresee tonight for the Cowboys. There's also college football tonight. Army at Temple. I thought Temple was the worst team in the country, and then they beat the snot out of Utah State last week. So I guess I don't really know what to make of the Temple Owls. They are 11.5-point underdogs at home tonight against the Black Knights of Army, who are playing some good football. Army and Navy, both of those service academies are playing some good football. Air Force, not so much. Air Force looks like they're in a bit of a rebuilding year. But Army and Navy both off to really good starts. I would not bet this game with your money, but Prairie Band Sportsbook says it's Army -11.5, total 46. The game, though, if you're a Royals fan, that you'll have your eye on tonight, will start in about 50 minutes at Target Field. The Marlins and the Twins. The Twins are -250 to win that one on the money line tonight as they look to hang close with the Royals after the Royals completed their sweep of the Nationals earlier today. It is David Festa on the mound for Minnesota, 2-6 on the year for the 24-year-old right-hander, an ERA of 4.8. Valente Belloso is on the mound for Miami. You may remember him. He made his big league debut against the Royals. That was back in June. Remember that miserable stretch where the Royals had that awful road trip? They went 2-7 on the road trip, and they lost a game to Miami, and they were on the verge of losing a series to the Marlins. It was the getaway day game, and Belloso was the right-hander who was starting, and I think he shut out the Royals for like 5 innings. So the Royals were going to lose, and then they erupted late in the game. They scored like 3, 4, 5 runs in the 8th, I think it was, and they ended up winning comfortably. But if you remember Valente Belloso, that would be why. He's 3-4 on the year, another 24-year-old right-hander with a 3.82 ERA. 4 straight solid starts for the rookie. Hopefully he's got one more in him. If the Marlins win tonight, the magic number becomes 1 for the Royals heading into the final weekend of the season. Again, Minnesota's dealing with Baltimore at home. The Royals are on the road at Atlanta. Somebody asked, I believe it was Jeffrey in the YouTube live chat, asked if the hurricane would potentially affect the Royals games in Atlanta. Hurricane Helene has made landfall and already postponed last night's game and today's Braves game. It sounds like they think they can play tomorrow night in Atlanta, but we'll see. Hurricanes, traditionally tough to predict, and there's a real chance that tomorrow's game might get moved to a Saturday doubleheader. Real chance of that happening. So if that does, obviously we'll let you know. But first pitch tomorrow night is set for 6:20 Central Time, And that means we'll have pregame coverage for Royals baseball tomorrow night at 5:30. So a little bit of a shortened edition, again, of 580 Sports Talk tomorrow. But that's the one to watch tonight. Marlins Twins. Go Marlins. I should have queued up the Scott Stapp. The Marlins will soar. Maybe I'll do that for my final word. That's coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. Final word for me today. I'm going to give it up to the former frontman of Creed, Scott Stapp. I'm going to let him do it. Come on, Marlins. Make us proud. Marlins Twins tonight. The game to keep an eye on if you are a Royals fan. If the Marlins can get out of Target Field with a win tonight, the magic number will be down to just one for the Royals to make the playoffs. Huge credit to Matt Quatraro. The way he managed that series, I thought he did an outstanding job. The bullpen is a strength. The offense got its mojo back, and the Royals' magic number right now is at 2. A blue October is that close. One other thing I do want to say on my final word, they can't hear it. They're they've got other things going on right now, but I want to congratulate my brother and his wife. They just earlier today welcomed their first child into the world, a daughter named Nora. So I am an uncle today, and I can't wait to meet my niece somewhere down the road. So I'm very proud today, and I wanted to congratulate them. Anyway, we'll be back with you tomorrow from 3 to 5:30. For the crew, I'm Dan Lucero. This has been 580 Sports Talk. Deuces.